Hey everybody, Rachel here from Rachthestamper.com. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this card. This is a case of a larger card that someone created. It was actually like a 3-panel card, so it kind of was out and across the whole panel. It's kind of like a scenery or scenic card, I guess you could say. So I just took one side of it because I really liked the pelican on the beach watching the ocean. And I'm going to just be really honest with you. I made this card last week, so I'm really going to do my best to remember what I did, but it's a little bit of masking. It's a lot of fun. You just want to take your time with it. One thing I do want to show you, so when I cut the mask, I did save it. So when I cut the mask, it is a little bit larger. So I want to make you aware of that in case you want to go ahead and trim a little bit, or if you wanted to, so you could kind of trim around it so you don't get the white edge, or you could do what I did. And I just did an outline, and I kind of think it actually makes it feel a little bit more 3D. But if you do look closely, and I'm going to try to get as close as I can, you can definitely see there's a little halo up around the pelican's head. But I think it turned out super cool. Sorry, I was just listening to that strange dog barking. I don't know, that was the weirdest sound ever. Sorry about that. So anyway, we're going to be using 2 stamps, Waves of Inspiration, and then a tried and true Oceanfront. Now, I will tell you, when I did this, I actually went through with my pecan pie. I started with a different color, and then I went back to pecan pie because I thought it looked a lot nicer. And I just did dots of it, because if you haven't seen, and I'm going to grab an older one so I can show you. Here, we'll go with this. So this is an older marker. We did update our markers, which is pretty amazing. And I have to say that I love the new tips. I know some people liked the finer tips, but I'm going to be 100% honest. I could never, ever get them to write in a stream. These tips are more like a felt tip marker, so they're a lot nicer. They also change, you can see the shape of the marker, not the shape, the size of the caps. So the caps are a little bit smaller. And they also redesigned the brush tip a little bit. It's a little bit wider. It's actually more of a really easy to, I don't want to say draw with, because that's not really, I guess, as much what I'm getting at, but it's easier to make something look more authentic. That's probably the best way to say it. So this does have a little bit of masking involved. It is a little bit of work. Maybe you're not going to make a zillion of these cards, but I thought it was really, really pretty. And if you made them kind of in an assembly line, you probably will be able to get away with making a little bit more. So we do have quite a lot of inks today that we're using. For the blues, we have navy, which is for the sentiment and the birds. And then I also have navy in the background here. We have a combination of Tahitian Tide is kind of more for the water here. Balmy Blue and Pool Party are the sky. But you'll notice when you look at this that there is kind of like a missing part of this, because I wanted to have almost like a cloud-like feel. So there is some intentional white space there. And then I also have out all of the watercolor pencils. This is number 1 and number 2. They have since updated number 2, and basically what I think they did is the Bermuda Bay, now they're just calling green. Or I'm sorry, not Coastal Cabana. This is the Bermuda Bay. They're just calling green, so I don't know. Maybe it has another color in it. I'm not really sure. I haven't bought them yet. And then for the other side, we're going to be using Crumb Cake kind of for the base of our beach. Then we use Pecan Pie to bring it in a little bit. Old Olive and Mossy Meadow are just the little leafy parts here. And you can put in whatever you do or don't want. The other thing I did is I kind of filled in a little bit of the color there. I used a blender pen. You could also use Pool Party Stampin' Blends, because they will definitely blend a little bit better with being alcohol markers. But I was okay with it. And then I just add a little bit of Wink Stella at the end. So I'm going to do my best to recreate this for you. And to begin, we're going to start with our pelican, and I'm actually going to stamp it in Crumb Cake because I kind of want it almost to go into that no line watercolor coloring when we end up coloring him in. So we're going to do that first. So our layer for this one goes this way. This one's just going to be a sideways card. So Coastal Cabana 4 1/4 by 11, scored at half, 5 1/2. Scored in half at 5 1/2. I haven't talked very much today. I guess my words aren't going well. Now this might look like a little bit of an unusual layout for you because of the length. I just kind of wanted it to focus. It also gives a little bit more depth, if you ask my opinion. But this is Night of Navy. It measures 4 by 5 1/4. Thick white measures 4 by 5. So it's the same lengthwise, it just has a little bit of a 1/4 inch taken off. So we're going to just mainly work with the white. We can layer these together at any point. There isn't really a lot of layering to this, but I do think with being able to do it the way we did, it kind of gives it that feeling of there's more there than you think. So to start, and I'm going to reuse some of my Post-it notes just to kind of give you an idea of what I'm doing. So to begin, what we're going to do is just ink up. And I think I might have done this before in, I think I might have done it in pecan pie. I even tried doing it in wild wheat, but it didn't really work out the way I wanted it to. So kind of just positioning my pelican on the right. I guess I give it about 2 inches off of the background. So that's what it looks like. We are still going to use this, so I'm going to just set this on the side for now. And then I already have a mask cut out. So this is from our masking paper. You can see what I did was, this is where I made a mistake. I colored this first and it stuck and it kind of ripped the paper a little bit here. So you definitely want to go ahead and put this down without coloring. We'll color it after the fact. I don't know what I was thinking when I did that, but I apologize. It's not quite as easy with the camera here for me to get in just where I want to. So this is the part where if you wanted to, you can see kind of underneath of there, just through there. If you wanted to go ahead and trim maybe the head just a teeny bit more so you don't have that halo, you can. But we're just going to do it the way we did before. I'm going to just press this, make sure it's down nicely. So this is what we did. And I have a whole slew. That's the official verbiage of Post-it tapes here that I saved. So I'm going to show you what I did. So to begin, I wanted to start with the sky. So I kind of just placed this. I'm just going to go with like approximate because I wanted the beach to be down here. And I kind of just will just overlap this just a little bit. I'm betting I did it this way because this looks like it's overlapped here. Let's go like that. That's good enough. Okay, so these pieces are the ones I use. So I just basically tore something. I wasn't strategic about it. I just did the best that I could. And I'm going to begin with, that was not the lightest. I'm going to begin with the lightest color, which would be Pool Party, and a blue blender pen or blender brush that I have. So I'm just going to set this over here so you can hopefully see. This may have a little bit of ink on it, so I'm just going to kind of go over. We are going to get our water down here, so it's not really imperative that you skip, but I'm kind of just hopping around. And you can tell right from there, even if you just did that, it kind of gives you like that puffy, it may be difficult to see on camera, but it gives you like a puffy, like as if there are clouds in the sky, which I kind of like that way. I'm just tapping off prior to starting. So that was Pool Party. And we're going to move on to Balmy Blue, and not a lot of Balmy Blue because this can be a little bit overwhelming. And I'm going to kind of bring that more on this side a little bit. And now you can really see those white splotches coming in that are going to attempt to be your clouds. All right, and then the other thing I did, so that was Balmy Blue, is I kind of went and did a reverse. So I have my water-ish scene there, okay? Then I'm going to pull this up. I shouldn't say pull it up. I'm going to turn it over first. I'm fibbing. I'm going to pick this up. And I kind of just did the opposite. So I kind of just fit this in-ish to the edge there. It doesn't have to be perfect, that's for sure. But you do want your water to have like an edge to it. So I'm trying to think when I did this, how did I go? I'm going to go like this. Let's see. How did I'm just trying to see because I can see there's definitely a line here. All right, we'll start with that. So again, we have our blue. So I'm going to go ahead down here. I'm just rubbing off a little bit of that balmy and point. Now this water, you can see if we're looking at it, is a little bit higher, and that's okay. It's not really a problem. But I'm going to just move this down here just for a minute because I kind of want that shore-ish line. Go. We have to kind of go with where I created it now. I'm going to put this here. Okay, and then I'm going to go to Tranquil Tide. So this is almost going to make like the shore break. It doesn't have to be super dark. You just want to be able to see. There you go. That looks pretty good. Okay, and then the other thing you can do if you want to, this isn't a necessary. This is just, I just grabbed a pen Azure Afternoon, and I'm going to just kind of come right to the edge here and just, that's a little bit dark actually now that I think of it. Let's, you can soften that a little bit. That's a little too dark. Let me go with Balmy. Balmy Blue might be okay. I kind of just want like a little bit of an edge to the water. And then you can always also go back and add a little bit of, I'm just going to add just like a little bit of texture through here. Well, I'm going for texture. I don't know if it ends up looking that way or not, but. All right, so there's that part. We have our, like our line. So we might go back again, just lightly, and kind of blend this over, since this is going to be the edge of where our water and our sky meet, and it's not really too bad. And then I'm going to bring this back in one more time and kind of meet right at that corner there, because now we're going to do the sand portion. So for this one, we're going to begin with Crumb Cake. Just move this one off to the side as well, and I'm going to grab a brownish brush, and we're going to start with Crumb Cake. This is a fairly light color, even re-inked. It's not really super intense, so we're just going to kind of lightly go over. That's good. And then when I used my pecan pie, this I was really sparing with. So in the beginning, I wanted to do the dots. So that's when I got out the marker. But I almost feel like they're a little too dotty in a couple certain areas. So what I ended up doing was I went with the pecan pie, and I kind of went off, and then I just kind of pounced it around a little bit. So it kind of, and that almost looks like it's going to, you know, you're like, Rachel, that is not going to look good. It's going to be goofy looking. I'm going to just slightly blend it. I'm just grabbing a cleaner one. Let's see. Because you just want just like a light little something. So it kind of gives like the pattern to the sand, because you know how sometimes you can see like little shell-ish areas. And I'm going to come down here just a little bit. I just want to make sure, even though this may overlap into the blue, that's okay, because it's not really going to pick up that significantly. So let's just pull this, see what that looks like. That looks pretty good. Gives a little bit of depth there. Oh, and I forgot I had this little piece. This must have been something I masked for something, but that got lost. All right. So the other thing you can do now, I'm going to go ahead and close this up, because we are going to stick with the same color, is I am going to grab the bullet tip of my pecan pie marker, and I'm going to just kind of go to the edge just a little bit, because it just gives a little more definition. The nice part too about this, which might sound like a negative, but it's not, you have a little white highlight, which honestly is just going to give you just a little bit of a highlight to your beach. And you don't want to put any of this away yet, because remember, we still have to kind of work around these pilings here. And it doesn't have to be specific. But the other thing you can do, and I'm going to show you this really quickly while I have it out, is you can actually take the little dots from Oceanfront and kind of add in a little bit of like a texture-ish feel. So I try not to kind of do these in the same direction if possible, just because you don't want it to look, you want it to look natural. And if you have the same pattern over and over again, it kind of tends to look a little fake. So that's plenty. You could also do that in the crumb cake if you prefer. So that is those. I do have the Night of Navy still out for the sentiment. And we are going to obviously still need to color the bird. But what we can do in the meantime is, if you want, we can put on some of these pieces right here. I'm going to put them on first, and then we'll remove our mask, just in case something doesn't really necessarily go the way we want. Looks pretty good. I kind of like that better, actually. And then we are going to need to put something directly in front of the piling. So I'm going to go with Mossy Meadow. And I'm going to to put this one. We are going to put one right over the piling there as well. So that one, I think my Mossy Meadow needs to be re-inked. Yeah, it's definitely not looking very mossy. I'll say that for sure. All right, and we're going to use the bigger one with the piling. So I'm going to set this on the side just so I don't accidentally drop it. And very carefully, you can use reverse tweezers if you want, but this is the second time this mask has been used, so it definitely, oh, see, I didn't line that up quite as nicely as I wanted to, but that's okay. We're going to fix it. No worries. So we're going to move this over. So I still have the brown on here, so you can fix it. You want to just try to be mindful not to go into the blue very much if you can help it. Okay, so now what I did, I'm going to show you. We're going to use these specific pencils, and then I'll kind of show you what you can add if you needed to. So I have crushed curry, early espresso, Cajun craze. Those are the main ones we're using really for the piling. So I'm going to go with the crushed curry, and I'm kind of just filling in, not really very specifically, just kind of filling in some areas of lighter. Okay, then I'm going to come in with the Cajun craze. And I want to make sure that it is still a little bit defined. As you can see, you can definitely see a really good top there. And again, this is where I differ from the first one where I did it, because I colored that one first and then I ended up taking the paper off of it, and it just didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. I'm just adding in a little bit of craze. Again, Cajun craze for that. Not really super specific. And then I'm going to go into the espresso, and this is going to be more of the area where I try to define the pilings. I don't know if they're pilings, pylons. I'm pretty sure they're pilings, but maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I've lived near the water, but I'm not really what I would say like a boat person. I love boats, but I don't really know very much about anything. So, and while I'm here, I'm going to just kind of reinforce the crisscross of the ropes, because I am going to bring something with them later. So here is where I went rogue, and I brought out my blending pen or blender pen. So I'm just going to kind of spread all these together. I'm avoiding the rope area for now. Okay, then I go with my pecan. I'm going to bring out the pecan, and I'm just going to dip a little bit in here, and I kind of just gave you like, see, this is where you can see it's a little bit more edge. So it's a little bit more edge kind of at the top. I wasn't doing the whole thing because I didn't want it to be super saturated, I guess is the best word to use. But I wanted to give a little bit of depth to these. But you have to be careful. You don't want to work your paper too much. Okay. And then I'm going to go in here and just do these just lightly. And then, so I'm going to close this up. And then I'm once again going to go back to my marker. Okay, so same thing again. Bullet tip, and I'm just going to go over the ropes. It's kind of hard to compare to the first one because that one I kind of flubbed up when I peeled it. So it has more depth to it because it ripped actually a layer of the paper. Some people might say it looks better, but it was a mistake. So it's a little bit difficult to replicate a mistake, if that makes sense. Okay, so we have that, but we still also, remember, we have this bird to color in. So this is where this comes in. So I did Daffodil Delight for the beak. Doesn't really matter how dark or light it is. And then I again went back to these three colors. So I have black, balmy blue, and crushed curry. So I kind of added in a little bit of crushed curry. And I wanted to give this like a wing definition, even though it's not really there. And then I did balmy blue for the head. I know pelicans don't have blue heads, but in my world they do. Just call me Alice. And I just did a little bit here. I guess they're kind of like a bluish grayish, and we don't really have that color. And then I went with black kind of around the rest of it. And again, I was trying to create the definition of a wing, even though it's not really necessarily here. So I gave this like a line. Just bringing in a little bit of black on the head, so it's not really blue, more of like a, I guess, a gray blue. And then same thing again, I'm just going to make sure this is clean. just have my blender pen, and I'm going to do the yellow first. You always want to go with your lightest because it will bleed. And then the blue and the black, we can kind of blend those together. All right, and there's that. Now, we still have the issue here with the light. So you can do this one of two ways. If you wanted to, you could get out your Coastal Cabana. You could kind of color in. You could also, if you wanted to, take your Pool Party marker. And I'm going to show you. This one doesn't really blend quite as well. So you'll end up with a little bit more of a line. But you can kind of come into the edge here, which is a lot. And then you could blend off. But maybe you don't have necessarily Stampin' Blend, so that's kind of one of your only options. The other thing you could do is even take a little bit of your Pool Party, and once again with your blender pen, once it's clean, make sure it's clean, just grabbing a little bit of ink with the tip. I feel like this works a little bit nicer sometimes than using the marker directly. But if you don't, or if you have a third option, so if you already own these, this would be my extra option, is I would say to take your light colored Pool Party Stampin' Blend, and then you can definitely just kind of fill in. Just want to be careful. Mine is really, really worn, and I need to throw this away, but I have a hard time throwing some of this stuff away because I'm like, but I can still use some for something. And I'm going to just blend to the edge here. Now, that does look a little bit obvious right there. I mean, right looking at it, it's a little bit much. I will agree with you there for 100%. But I'm going to take my marker, not my marker, my blending brush. And I just want to make sure, see if this is super clean. I'm actually going to rub it on a rag just to verify. Okay, so I'm going to take my blending brush. Just go in. You still want to make sure you touch and kind of just go over the edge. And just soften it just a little bit. You can even pounce a little bit just to kind of create a little bit of added something. You can see here I put my finger in ink and then put it on there. So this is already clearly a homemade card. The other thing you can do is you can also add in, if you flubbed this up because I did this earlier, you can add in some sentiments there if you need to. So this just kind of depends. I guess when it boils down to it, probably what you should do is take the time to take your, because you can definitely see the difference here, take your paper snips and just take just a teeny bit off the head. It doesn't even have to be very much. The rest of it really isn't quite that noticeable, if you ask me, but just, you could take just a teeny little bit. And also when you're doing this, remember you want to turn what you're cutting, not your scissors, if you can help it. So just take a little bit off the head. Hopefully that'll work, but we'll see. We're going to make it work no matter what, because somebody is going to love this card. It doesn't really matter what it looks like. It matters the fact that you took the time to send somebody a card. So I'm going to take my bigger seagrass, and I'm going to go back in again with the mossy meadow. We're going to just add just a little bit the bottom there. So that kind of covers up the bottom of your piling. You can't really see it quite as much. And the other thing you can do, this also I think kind of gives it like a little bit of a sheen of fixing it, is go over with your Wink of Stella brush. So just as a little side note, I don't know, this is obviously an older brush, but if you've ever opened this, oh look, it didn't work that time. There's a little cap that will stay right over the brush. You just pop it off. So if that ever happens to you, just keep going. It's fine. That happened to me a while ago. I haven't been able to get it to stay in, but of course, since I'm on video here, it will stay in. Miracles. So there is our bird. I think I did a little bit on here as well. And if you wanted to, like if you want to add just a little bit more depth to this, you could even go in with your marker. You could do this with a blend, but you kind of just add like a little bit of detail to the wood after the fact, after you've blended it. And I really think it definitely makes them look more wood-like. Okay, so finally, we're going to go ahead and add in our sentiment. Let me just move a couple of these things out of the way. And I just went with You're So Totally Awesome. And then we also have our bird. Now this one has a single bird. We have a bazillion stamp sets that have birds if you want more than one bird. So you definitely can do that. But it's also kind of nice if you're trying to do a bird for covering up something that you goofed. Look at that. Wow, that was some really lucky placement there. I know these birds and him aren't necessarily in scale, but you know what? That's the fun of making your own card, right? And I think I'm going to change this one. We're going to do your strength because I really need this. I think I'm going to use for a card. A very young friend of mine who worked at school with us passed away extremely unexpectedly, and I want to give this to her mom. And this is going to come out way after this has all been said and done, but she was a beautiful person inside and out. Her name is Sydney. She made me smile every time we worked together. She was always silly. The kids absolutely adored her. That is probably the biggest understatement I could ever say, because it was constantly, is Miss Sydney coming? Is Miss Sydney coming? Is Miss Sydney coming? They truly, truly loved her. So I think I'm going to give this to her mom because I think she would really appreciate it. I hope she would. Just the thought that her daughter was amazing, and sometimes you need to hear those things, I guess, even though they're difficult. So I have a white gel pen here, and what I'm doing is just adding just a little bit of white. Not really very much because this isn't like a crashing wave, but just a little bit of seafoam highlighting, I guess you could say, to a couple areas. We used to sell these gel pens. We don't any longer. You can get these on Amazon. I do always have a link on my blog post or on my Amazon, or not my Amazon, on my YouTube links. There's something that takes you to my blog. So just adding a little bit of white in there kind of brings it together. But I think it's a really, really pretty card. So all we have to do now is just, oops, assemble it. So we're just going to do this with liquid glue. That way, make sure we get the layers lined up really nicely. Again, this is going to have a layer on the side. So I'm going to make sure you have about 1/4 of an inch, oops, on each side. I have to say, I am not looking forward to the day when we go back to school, and I know one of these little ones is going to ask where Miss Sydney is, and that is just a testament to how loved she was. But boy, is it going to be difficult to keep myself together when I have to answer that question. She was one of a kind, gemstone. And I know now that she is watching over all of us. I'm sure she's having a heck of a time up there. The Lord might be thinking, what did he do? And she was a handful. I love her. Such a sweetheart. She'll be dearly missed. All right, I'm going to just add just a little bit of kind of remnant whatever was on the tip of this Wink of Stella, just to give a little bit of shimmer to the water. Like that. And I think I'm going to call this done. It's a beautiful, beautiful card. Really, really nice. Again, probably over here a little bit, you can see if I get close enough. Overworking this paper sometimes will make it a little bit pilly. But honestly, we'll take this as creative license. It's just going to look a little worn, like it actually has been out on the dock. But there are your 2 cards. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. Just in case you don't know, there are so many different things that you can do with these different types of tools that we have. So with the blender pens, you can blend the watercolor pencils. You can use these to add a little bit of ink and a little place. These are great just for having something to maybe add like a touch of color to. They're really nice, and in addition to, or also, I mean, you can even do this. So I'll show you just for, in case for some reason maybe you wanted to add something less strength, you can even take your marker and you can just dip a little bit of ink off of your marker. If you really were afraid that you're going to mess something up and add a little bit of color to it, they're really, really nice for adding touches of color. So Blender pens are great. These actually come in a 3-pack. You get 3. They have dual ends. They're both the same, but they're really nice because as long as you're not using it for black or white, you can use them for any color. So even though this tip looks like it's stained, what you'll do is you just wipe it off till it's clear, and then you can use it on something again, and it actually doesn't leave any of the other residual colors. However, as I stated, if you have black or craft white ink, so I have one that I have just for white because it's really, really difficult to get the craft white ink off of here, and kind of same goes for the black. So I have one dedicated to those, but otherwise I just use these interchangeably for any other one. The watercolor pencils are really great because you can use these dry, you can use them wet, you can actually dip these in a little bowl of water and use them before you go, or you can color something in, spread it around with the blender pen. You can spread it around with the water painters that we have. They have actually 3 different tips now. A broader brush like this, a tinier one, and then there's one that's actually like a flat brush. These are really nice. You could use these with water. You can use them with alcohol. If you don't want to fill up the barrel, which sometimes gives you more control if you just dip and use them. So that's a nice idea. There's so many things you can do with these. But the other cool thing is you can actually use a lot of these things interchangeably. You can use these with the color coordinated marker. You can use them with the color coordinated Stampin' Blend, the alcohol marker. They really have no limit to the amount of things that you can do with just a certain amount of supplies. But another cool technique that I'm going to be sharing with you really soon is, this is probably something you've done before, but I haven't done it in a while, is the not the whipped cream. Geez, that's a whole different show, Rachel. It's the shaving cream technique. So if you haven't seen that before, I know I have some older videos on it as well that you can go and check out, but I'll be sharing one of those with you very soon as well. Whipped cream is for your coffee or whatever you're going to do in your own spare time. This is going to be shaving cream. So shaving cream and actually using re-inkers, which is it's a fun technique. So I can't wait to share that one with you all as well. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Oh, I'm not even focused on the cards. Isn't that sad? I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for joining me. If you've learned anything in the video today, please make sure you just leave a comment and let me know what you learned, what you found out, maybe something new to you or a new way to use something that you already have had. I would really appreciate that. If you have any questions, you can also leave them in the comments. And I would love for you to share this with a friend. If you have someone you think would enjoy this video, make sure that you either share it with them, you can send them the link, you can tag people in the comments. We love to have new friends here. So if you're new joining me today, I want to thank you so much for stopping by. And if you've been here a while, thank you again for hanging out and sticking with me. I know through the summer, I was trying to be here a little bit more, but sometimes you just have to do stuff with your family and fit this in when you can. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you real soon. Bye.